John Mercer had always believed luck was a matter of timing, and timing was something he had none of. A small-time trader in the Outer Rim, he had scraped together what little credits he had from weeks of minor deliveries and questionable deals. Today, however, he felt something stir inside him, a restless energy that whispered of opportunity. His eyes scanned the digital auction listings flickering across his worn holoscreen. Ships, freighters, even some old shuttles were being sold cheap, discarded by their owners or simply abandoned. It was the sort of thing John thrived on. Old machines with secrets waiting to be discovered, machines that could still hold value if one knew how to unlock them. Then he saw it. An old freighter listed as unclaimed, lightly used, sitting in a derelict docking bay on a forgotten asteroid station. The image showed its hull scratched and scorched, its paint faded to gray streaks, but the price was shockingly low. John's heart skipped a beat. This was either a mistake or the break he had been waiting for. He prepared for a trip to the station, grabbing a worn flight jacket, his utility belt with basic tools, and a sidearm he hoped he wouldn't have to use. The station was distant, poorly maintained, and mostly empty, its corridors echoing with the metallic clatter of old machinery. As he approached the freighter, John's fingers brushed over the hull. It was heavier than it looked. A solid structure that had weathered storms in the void. He grinned, already imagining the hours he could spend upgrading it, customizing it, making it truly his own. He stepped inside, the airlock hissing as it sealed behind him. The freighter smelled faintly of burnt circuits and cleaning solvents. Its AI interface flickered to life. A voice, thin and metallic, greeted him. Unauthorized user detected. Confirm identity. John chuckled. Relax. I'm buying this ship.
I think that counts as authorized, right? The AI paused for a moment before responding. Purchase confirmed. Warning, unknown life forms detected.
Proceed with caution.
John froze.
Unknown life forms? He scanned the ship's interior. The freighter appeared empty, just the usual cargo bays, storage compartments, and narrow hallways. He frowned. Perhaps it was an old sensor glitch. Still, a shiver ran down his spine. Curiosity won over caution. He followed the AI's subtle prompts, leading him to the cargo bay. The space was dimly lit, filled with crates and storage containers. Most seemed ordinary. Supplies, spare parts, nothing remarkable. Then he noticed a panel in the corner, slightly out of place. It had been sealed, but the seals were old, worn, and fragile. Something told John that whatever lay beyond it was not meant to be found. He pried open the panel. The metal gave way with a soft groan, and then he saw them. A woman, pale-skinned with luminous eyes that seemed to shine even in the dim light, held a child close to her chest. Both were trembling, fear radiating from every fiber of their being. The child looked no more than 5, with wide eyes that reflected intelligence far beyond his age. John staggered back, his mouth dry. What are you?" he managed to ask, though his voice trembled. The woman's eyes flicked up to him, and in a strange, almost silent way, he felt her message in his mind. "Please don't hurt us." John stumbled over himself. I don't want to hurt you. I just didn't expect." She held up a hand, a gesture that felt both universal and urgent. He realized she was trying to communicate. Hesitantly, he lowered his hands, giving her the space she needed. The AI suddenly chimed in, its voice tense. "Alert. Life forms detected are not human. Unknown species classification. Unknown intentions. Recommend caution." John ignored it. He had seen dangerous situations before, but this felt different. There was no malice in her eyes, only fear, and the child clung to her, looking at him with a mixture of curiosity and silent pleading. Okay, John said finally, his voice steadier than he felt.
I don't know what's going on, but you're safe. I'll figure this out. The woman relaxed slightly, though her grip on the child didn't loosen.
She moved closer, and John noticed small, intricate markings on her arms, glowing faintly. They pulsed softly, like a heartbeat, syncing with the child's small, nervous movements. Something told John this was no ordinary alien. There was a connection here, something deeper than mere survival. Before he could ask more questions, a sharp vibration ran through the ship. Warning lights flashed as the AI announced, "Proximity alert. Unauthorized ship detected. Approach velocity? High. Likely pursuit." John's stomach dropped. "Great," he muttered. "Just what I needed." He raced to the cockpit, the woman and child following silently. The child's eyes lingered on the controls, and John noticed a subtle recognition, a kind of instinctive understanding. He swallowed hard and focused. Whoever was following them was not going to get an easy catch. The engines roared to life, echoing through the freighter's old metal hull. The ship shuddered as John punched the thrusters, dodging debris in the station's docking bay. Red warning lights flashed, alarms blaring. Behind them, the faint outline of a small, fast craft appeared, pursuing them relentlessly.
Hang on,
John shouted.
this might get bumpy.
Lyra, the alien mother, whispered something, and John felt it like a thought in his mind. They are very close. They will not stop. John's pulse quickened. The asteroid belt outside offered little cover, but he navigated with skill, weaving between massive rocks and abandoned satellites. The pursuer followed, narrowly avoiding collisions. John's hands moved instinctively, guided by experience, adrenaline, and something else, something almost unexplainable, a spark of intuition. The child watched silently, eyes wide, absorbing every move. John couldn't help but feel a mix of awe and responsibility. He wasn't just running from danger. He was now a guardian, protecting a life he barely understood. After tense minutes that felt like hours, John found a small, uncharted pocket in the asteroid field. He pushed the freighter into it, hiding among jagged rocks and shadowed craters. The pursuing ship passed by, scanning, then gave up after a tense pause. John exhaled, wiping sweat from his brow. He turned to look at Lyra and the child. The mother's eyes met his, gratitude and fear mixing in a way he had never seen before. "I don't know who is after you or why," John said quietly, "but I'm not letting them take you. Not on my watch." The child reached out, a small, trembling hand brushing against John's. For a moment, the freighter felt less like a broken machine and more like a home, a place where survival and hope could coexist. As the sun of a distant star cast its pale light across the asteroid field, John realized something he hadn't felt in a long time: purpose. For the first time, his life wasn't just about credits, trades, or survival. It was about something greater. It was about protecting those who couldn't protect themselves, about courage, about humanity, and maybe even about making a difference in a galaxy that had never believed humans could matter. The freighter's AI, now eerily calm, said, "Unknown life forms stabilized. Threat temporarily neutralized. Recommend course plotting to safe destination." John nodded, already planning. He didn't know where they would go, or what dangers lay ahead. But he knew one thing for certain: this ship, these beings, and the future they represented were now his responsibility. And John Mercer never ran from responsibility, not when it mattered most. As the freighter drifted out of the asteroid field, a new journey began, not just for John, but for humanity itself, facing the stars with courage, ingenuity, and an unbreakable will. Somewhere out there, hunters would try to follow, enemies would try to exploit, and dangers would arise. But John and his unexpected companions were ready. For the first time, John realized that sometimes the smallest choices, the choice to protect, to care, to act, could change everything. And as the freighter glided through the vastness of space, carrying its precious luminous passengers, John felt the spark of something incredible. A mission, a cause, a story that was bigger than any one human, but with humans at the heart of it, proving that even in the darkest corners of the galaxy, courage and humanity would shine brightest. The freighter drifted quietly through the uncharted sector, but the silence was deceptive. John Mercer sat in the cockpit, hands gripping the controls, eyes scanning the dark void ahead. He knew the peace would not last. Whoever had been chasing them had resources, skill, and determination, and they were not about to give up. Lyra, the alien mother, sat behind him with the child on her lap. The little one's eyes followed John's every move, fascination mixing with fear. Lyra spoke softly, her voice a melody that seemed to resonate in the freighter's cabin. Her words were slow, careful, but John could understand her intent through the AI's translation module and a kind of instinctive empathy he didn't fully explain. "They know you now," she said. "They will not stop until they have him." Until they have him? Why him? He carries something powerful. If they take him, they could destroy worlds. John swallowed hard. His pulse quickened. He had protected people before. Colonists, miners, even smugglers. But this was different. This child, fragile and small, held the kind of power that could tilt the balance of entire galaxies. And now, it was his responsibility to keep them safe. The AI beeped, alerting him to a nearby system. Detected habitation, miner station, likely abandoned. Suggest docking for repairs and supplies. John nodded. "We'll take it. It's the best shot we have for now." The station was a relic, a skeleton of steel floating in the void. Its docking bays were corroded, lights flickering, but John navigated the freighter carefully and brought it to a halt inside one of the larger bays. The moment the engines powered down, a low hum of silence filled the cabin. Lyra and the child remained calm, though the mother's eyes never left the doorway. John opened the cargo bay hatch and started checking the systems. He had work to do. Engines needed calibration, shields needed repair, and the freighter's old systems required constant attention. But for once, John wasn't thinking about profit or trade. He was thinking about survival and protecting life. As John worked, Lyra approached the cockpit. She stood close, her luminous eyes studying him with curiosity and something like trust.
"You are different," she said.
John chuckled softly, wiping grease from his hands. "Different?" "That's one way to put it. I'm just trying to survive, same as you." Lyra shook her head gently. "No."
"You care. You protect."
"Most humans I have encountered, they would not have stopped. They would have run, or worse, handed him over." John paused, considering her words. He had faced danger before, but nothing like this. And yet, despite the fear, a strange warmth filled him. He had always wanted to make a difference, even if it was small, even if no one noticed. And now, here it was, staring him in the face. He noticed the child watching him. The boy's eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the cabin lights, and John felt a strange connection. The child seemed aware of his presence, as if recognizing not just a protector, but an ally. "Can he do things?" John asked quietly, gesturing to the boy. Lyra's expression darkened. "Yes, things humans have not yet imagined. One and on his beige, it could destroy planets. If misused, it could destroy planets. If guided, he could save them." John felt the weight of her words. The child was not just precious. He was dangerous, in the wrong hands, and yet full of potential. And John, whether he liked it or not, had become part of that future. A sudden alarm shattered the silence. John spun in his seat. The sensors lit up, showing multiple incoming signatures, small, agile crafts moving fast through the void. The hunters had tracked them again. "They found us," John muttered, his hands tightening on the controls. Lyra moved close, her presence calm but focused. "We must leave now." John didn't hesitate. The freighter lurched as the engines roared to life, its old metal frame shivering under the sudden acceleration. The hunters pursued, firing beams that left bright trails in the darkness. John twisted the controls, dodging debris and weaving through the station's broken exterior. The freighter's shields flared under the hits, but it held. Lyra whispered, her voice almost a thought in John's mind. "Left, through the tunnel. Asteroids will hide us." John reacted instantly, veering the freighter through a narrow channel of jagged asteroids. The pursuing ships struggled to keep up, their weapons narrowly missing the hull. He felt a surge of adrenaline, the thrill of survival, and the satisfaction of using his human instinct and skill to outmaneuver the more advanced pursuers.
"You've got some luck on your side," Lyra said, her tone tinged with awe.
John smirked. "Luck? No. Skill. Humans have that in spades." They navigated the asteroid field for hours, using debris and narrow passages to evade detection. The child remained silent, watching the controls and sometimes touching them, small hands moving with surprising precision. John realized that the boy truly did understand machines in a way that seemed impossible. He could feel the freighter responding to the child's subtle gestures. Eventually, they found a temporary haven in a small, hidden cavern inside a massive asteroid. The freighter settled, engines powering down, and John exhaled. "We'll be safe here. For now," he said, looking at Lyra and the child. Lyra nodded, her eyes softening.
"You are brave, human."
"Braver than most I have known."
John shrugged. "I'm not brave."
"I'm just stubborn." They shared a quiet moment, the tension slowly easing. For the first time since their escape, John allowed himself to think beyond survival. He imagined upgrading the freighter, fortifying it, and preparing for the inevitable challenges ahead. But he also thought about the bond forming between them, fragile but growing. As night fell in the asteroid cavern, the freighter's lights casting shadows on the walls, John taught the child simple human games, moving small objects, solving puzzles, and learning basic patterns. The child responded with astonishing speed, eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. Lyra watched with a mixture of pride and concern, realizing that her child's abilities were growing even stronger under John's guidance. Hours later, the child slept, and Lyra turned to John. "He trusts you. That is rare." John nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. "I'll protect him."
"No one will hurt him while I'm here." Lyra's eyes reflected something John couldn't quite name, a mixture of hope and relief.
"Then we are allies, human. Perhaps together we can change what is coming." John understood the gravity of her words. The galaxy was vast, full of dangers, factions, and secrets. Yet here, in this small freighter hidden among asteroids, humans and aliens were forming a bond that could defy odds, challenge power, and protect life itself. He had never imagined such a purpose, yet now it filled him completely. Suddenly, the freighter's AI beeped softly, drawing his attention. A faint signal appeared on the sensors, a distress beacon from a nearby station. Someone else was in trouble. John looked at Lyra.
"They are calling for help," he said. "We can't ignore it." Lyra hesitated, then nodded.
If we assist, it could teach him how to use his gift for good. But it is dangerous.
John smiled grimly. "Danger is my middle name." As they prepared to leave the asteroid's hiding place, John felt a renewed sense of purpose. The hunters were still out there, and worse dangers waited in the galaxy. But for now, they had survived together. They had formed a team, and the bond between human and alien had begun. He glanced at the child, whose small fingers reached for the controls again. John felt a strange pride. They had survived the first challenge, but he knew this was only the beginning. And in the vast, unforgiving expanse of space, one thing was certain: humanity's ingenuity, courage, and heart would be tested. John Mercer, the once lonely trader, had found a mission far greater than credits or survival. He had found a reason to fight, to protect, and to prove that humans, no matter how small or underestimated, could stand against the galaxy's dangers, and even save it. As the freighter glided out from the asteroid cavern, past shattered stations and floating debris, John set a course for the distress signal. Ahead lay new challenges, new enemies, and new discoveries, but he felt ready, bolstered by his human spirit, his skills, and the fragile but growing trust between him, Lyra, and her extraordinary child. The galaxy waited. And John Mercer, against all odds, was ready to face it. The freighter cut through the darkness of space, small lights blinking against the endless black. John Mercer sat in the cockpit, his hands steady on the controls, but his mind raced. The distress signal they had answered led them to a deserted outpost on a barren moon. Its towers were broken, lights dead, and the silence of abandonment pressed against the freighter's hull. Yet sensors showed life signs, faint but unmistakable. Someone, or something, was alive. Lyra stood beside the child, who clung to her side. The boy's small hands traced patterns in the air, and John noticed the freighter's systems reacting subtly, lights flickering in response, minor adjustments in the thrusters, systems coming online as if guided by an unseen hand. John's brow furrowed. He had suspected the child's abilities, but seeing them now was unsettling. This was no ordinary life form. "We should be careful," Lyra whispered. "There may be others here, hunters, spies, or worse." John nodded, already scanning the moon below. The outpost seemed empty, yet his gut told him danger was near. He had faced pirates, raiders, and mercenaries before, but something about this situation felt different. Every instinct he had screamed that the child was more than a target. He was a key, someone who could change the balance of power in the galaxy.
"Let's move carefully," John said. "We don't know what we're walking into." They docked the freighter in a half-collapsed hangar, the airlock hissing as it sealed behind them. The moon's surface was cold and lifeless, with dust blowing in the weak atmosphere. The outpost stretched ahead, broken walls, shattered walkways, and dead machinery creating a maze of metal and shadow. John led the way, his eyes scanning every corner, every dark passage. Inside the outpost, they found remnants of a settlement, abandoned supplies, overturned crates, and a faint hum of life systems still running. And then they saw him, an old scientist, human, trapped behind a collapsed wall. He looked up at them with relief and fear.
"Thank you," the man rasped. "I thought no one would come." John moved quickly to help, lifting rubble and stabilizing the weak structure. Lyra and the child stayed close, the child watching with fascination, his small hands glowing faintly as if sensing the man's fear and pain. It was subtle, almost invisible, but John saw it. The child had a way of touching the world that no human could understand, manipulating energy and machines with an instinctive touch. Once the scientist was free, he collapsed to the floor, breathing heavily. "I was studying the energy signatures," he said, glancing nervously at the child. They are extraordinary." Whoever controls them could dominate star systems. That child, you must protect him. John felt a chill. This confirmed what Lyra had said, but hearing it from another human made the danger real. The boy was not just special, he was a living key, capable of powers that could shape or destroy entire worlds. And now, multiple factions would be hunting him. "Then we need to get out of here,"
John said firmly. We can't stay on this moon, and we can't let anyone find us. Lyra nodded, placing a hand on the child's shoulder.
He is ready, she said. I will guide him, but he needs your guidance, human.
You will teach him courage, ingenuity, strategy. You will show him what it means to survive and to protect. John swallowed hard. He had never thought of himself as a teacher, but he understood now that this was his role. Survival was not enough. He needed to prepare the boy for the galaxy's dangers. As they made their way back to the freighter, sensors lit up. Multiple ships approached from the far side of the moon, sleek and deadly, faster than anything John had ever piloted against. He cursed under his breath. The hunters had tracked them, and this time, they came in force. Hang on, John muttered, slamming the freighter's engines online. The hangar's doors shook as he lifted off, dodging beams of energy that scorched the walls. Lyra's voice echoed in his mind. Through the canyon. Use the rocks. John maneuvered the freighter between jagged cliffs, using the terrain to hide and confuse their pursuers. The child reached out, touching the controls instinctively, and the ship responded, making slight adjustments that allowed them to dodge near misses. John's jaw tightened. The boy's abilities were incredible, but he had to be careful. Every action could attract attention, or worse, harm them. Hours passed as they navigated the moon's dangerous canyons. The hunters, relentless, adapted to their maneuvers, showing skill and persistence. John realized that brute force alone would not save them. He needed strategy, ingenuity, and the child's abilities working in harmony with his own experience. Finally, they found a hidden cave at the base of the cliffs. John piloted the freighter into it, the ship's hull scraping lightly against the rock walls. The hunters passed overhead, scanning the area without noticing their hiding spot. Inside the cave, John took a moment to breathe. Lyra knelt beside the child, her hands glowing faintly as she spoke softly. The child's eyes shimmered, absorbing every word, every gesture, learning and reacting. John watched them, feeling awe and a strange pride. This small being, so young and fragile, was capable of incredible things. And now humanity and alien intelligence were working together to protect him. Tomorrow we need to plan, John said. We can't just keep running.
We need a strategy. Some way to stay ahead of them.
Yes, he is learning.
We must guide him carefully, teach him to focus, to control, to understand the world and the forces that seek him. Only then will he be ready for what is coming.
John leaned back, exhausted but determined. The galaxy was vast, full of dangers, but he felt a strange confidence.
Humanity had always been underestimated, weak in comparison to advanced civilizations, fragile in the void. But humans had ingenuity, courage, and resilience. And now they had a reason to prove it once again. The next day, John began teaching the child in earnest. Simple tasks at first, moving objects, understanding cause and effect. Small puzzles that combined logic and physical movement. The child absorbed everything, eyes glowing with concentration. Every gesture he made seemed to influence the freighter's systems, the cave's energy fields, and even the surrounding environment. John realized that teaching him was not just about survival. It was about building trust, understanding, and coordination between human and alien intelligence. Lyra assisted, guiding the child's abilities with subtle gestures, her own energy weaving around his. John marveled at the bond forming between them. It was not just mother and child. It was teacher, protector, and student, all learning to operate together against a universe that did not forgive weakness. As the day progressed, the hunters finally arrived. Their ships descended on the cave, weapons ready, scanning for life signs. John and Lyra moved quickly, positioning the freighter as a defensive blockade. The child, sensing danger, reached out instinctively. The systems hummed, energy fields rippling, creating a shield-like barrier that confused the enemy scanners. John's hands moved in tandem, piloting the freighter with precision,
dodging attacks, and creating escape routes. The hunters were relentless, but they had underestimated the combination of human cunning, alien intuition, and the child's abilities. Every move John made was calculated, every reaction measured. The freighter became a living extension of their teamwork, a proof of human adaptability and resilience. Hours of tense maneuvering ended with the hunters retreating, frustrated and unable to breach the defenses. John exhaled, leaning back in his seat. Lyra knelt beside the child, holding him close. "He has learned much today," she said softly. "He is stronger than I imagined."
John smiled, a mixture of relief and pride washing over him.
We all learned something today, and tomorrow we get even better.
For the first time, he felt hope, not just for themselves, but for the child, for humanity, and for the possibility of proving that courage, intelligence, and moral choice could triumph over sheer power. The galaxy was dangerous, unpredictable, and often cruel. But humans had always adapted, always survived, and always found a way to rise. As the freighter drifted back into orbit, John plotted a course to the next safe haven. He knew the hunters would not give up, but now they were not just fleeing, they were preparing, and in that preparation lay the real strength of humanity, ingenuity, courage, and the willingness to fight for something greater than oneself. John glanced at Lyra and the child, feeling the weight of responsibility, but also the power of alliance. They were more than a team. They were a testament to what could be achieved when humans refused to surrender, when courage met intelligence, and when hope refused to die. The galaxy awaited them, full of dangers, secrets, and opportunities. And John Mercer, with his unexpected companions, was ready. Together they would face whatever came next, proving that even against the most advanced adversaries, human spirit, ingenuity, and heart could prevail. And so they prepared for the future, ready to confront the unknown, ready to fight for life, and ready to prove that humans, though small in the vastness of space, could shine brighter than any star. The freighter glided through the void, silent and sleek, carrying 3 unlikely companions who had become a team. John Mercer sat at the controls, alert and focused. Lyra, the alien mother, hovered near the navigation panel, her luminous eyes scanning the readouts. The child sat quietly between them, small hands brushing over the console, feeling the ship, sensing its systems. The little one's abilities had grown stronger every day, and John could feel it, a subtle hum beneath the freighter's hull, energy flowing through circuits and machinery, guided by the boy's instinctive touch. John's mind raced. The hunters would not give up. Whoever sought the child's powers had resources far beyond anything John had faced. But he also knew that the combination of human ingenuity, alien intuition, and the child's extraordinary abilities gave them an edge. They were not defenseless. They were a force to be reckoned with. Lyra leaned close. "We are nearing the coordinates I sensed. It is dangerous."
Very dangerous. But if we do this, we can end the hunt.
We can protect him for good. Then we do it, no hesitation. The coordinates led them to a massive derelict space station orbiting a dead planet.
Its metal skeletons stretched across kilometers of space, broken and corroded yet still formidable. John had piloted through dangerous stations before, but this one was different. It radiated power, the remnants of long-forgotten technology, and the signs of a trap. As they approached, sensors lit up with dozens of incoming signatures. The hunters had followed them, and more ships than John had ever faced before surrounded the station, blocking every possible escape route.
"They have prepared an ambush,"
John muttered, his jaw tightening.
"But they don't know what they're up against."
Lyra placed her hand gently on the child's shoulder. "He knows. And together we are stronger." John glanced at the boy, whose eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the lights of the freighter's controls. There was no fear, only focus, understanding, and a strange calm. The child reached out instinctively, touching the freighter's systems, sending ripples of energy through circuits and shielding. John felt the ship respond as if alive, subtly shifting its power to deflect potential attacks. The hunters opened fire, beams of energy cutting through space, striking the freighter's shields. John reacted instantly, weaving between debris using every ounce of skill and instinct he possessed. Lyra whispered guidance, subtly manipulating the environment with her abilities, nudging energy flows to misdirect the attackers. And the child, small but powerful, guided the freighter's systems with precision, making adjustments that no human pilot could. John smiled grimly. Humans, aliens, and one incredible kid. Let's show them what we've got. They dove into the station's twisted corridors, weaving through abandoned docking bays, shattered walkways, and half-collapsed control towers. The hunters followed relentlessly, but John's knowledge of maneuvering, combined with the child's innate understanding of systems, allowed them to stay one step ahead. In a narrow chamber filled with old machinery, John stopped the freighter just long enough to analyze the situation. We can't fight them head-on. We need a plan. A trap.
And we need to use
He can manipulate energy, redirect systems, even influence machines. But he must be guided. John took a deep breath.
Then we guide him. We work together.
This plan was simple, but dangerous. John piloted the freighter into the heart of the station, where massive conduits and old power systems lay exposed. He positioned the ship so that it could serve as bait, drawing the hunters into a confined space. Lyra whispered instructions, and the child reached out, sending pulses of energy through the station's machinery. Lights flickered, consoles sparked, and the environment itself seemed to obey the boy's instincts. The hunters, confident in their superior numbers and firepower, followed, falling into the trap. As they entered the chamber, John triggered a series of calculated maneuvers. Debris shifted, energy fields activated, and the hunters found themselves trapped in narrow corridors, unable to maneuver their ships effectively. Every move they made was anticipated and countered by the combined efforts of human skill, alien guidance, and the child's abilities. John laughed quietly, adrenaline surging.
I never thought I'd say this, but I love this part.
Lyra smiled, a rare warmth in her expression. He is ready. We are ready. Together, we are unstoppable. The hunters tried to regroup, but it was too late. The child extended his small hands, glowing brightly, and energy cascaded through the station, disabling weapon systems, disrupting engines, and creating barriers that prevented escape. The freighter, guided by John, moved with precision, dodging any retaliatory strikes. The hunters, overwhelmed and outmaneuvered, were forced to retreat, unable to match the coordination and ingenuity of their opponents. When the last of the enemy ships vanished into the void, John exhaled, leaning back in his seat. Lyra embraced the child, holding him close. It is done, she said softly. He is safe. John smiled, feeling a sense of accomplishment unlike anything he had experienced before.
Not just safe, unstoppable.
For the first time since the journey began, they allowed themselves to relax. The freighter glided through the empty corridors of the station, lights casting shadows on walls that had witnessed centuries of history. John looked at Lyra and the child, feeling a profound connection. They had faced impossible odds and survived. They had proven that courage, ingenuity, and unity could overcome even the most formidable adversaries. Lyra turned to John.
You are human.
You have courage, determination, and cleverness. You have shown him what it means to fight, to survive, and to protect.
John shook his head. I didn't do it alone.
We all did this together. Human, alien, and child. That's what makes us strong. The child looked up at John, eyes shining with understanding and trust. John felt a warmth he had never known. The boy was not just powerful. He was learning, growing, and becoming something extraordinary. And John, despite his flaws and mistakes, had played a role in that growth. As they left the derelict station behind, heading toward open space and a new future, John realized something important. The galaxy was vast, dangerous, and unpredictable. Threats would always arise, factions would always seek power, and challenges would continue to test their limits. But humans had a unique strength, courage, ingenuity, and the ability to rise to the occasion no matter the odds. John looked at Lyra and the child, feeling pride and hope.
We're ready, he said. Whatever comes next, we face it together.
And no one will ever take him from us, Lyra smiled, her eyes reflecting the glow of distant stars.
Then together we will survive. And perhaps we will inspire others.
Humans, aliens, all life. There is hope.
Because we have proven that even the smallest, weakest among us can rise, if we have courage and heart.
The child reached out, brushing his small hand against the freighter's controls, and John felt a ripple of energy flow through the ship, subtle but powerful.
It was a sign, one that spoke of future potential, of growth, of possibilities yet to be realized. John leaned back, taking a deep breath. The galaxy awaited them, full of challenges, mysteries, and wonders. But for the first time, he felt ready. Together they were more than a team. They were a force of life, courage, and hope. And in a universe that often underestimated humanity, they had shown that human spirit, ingenuity, and moral choice could triumph against overwhelming odds. As the freighter soared past distant stars, John looked at the vast expanse of space. He felt the thrill of adventure, the weight of responsibility, and the pride of accomplishment. They had faced impossible dangers, and yet here they were, alive, stronger, and united. Somewhere in the galaxy, hunters would continue to seek power, but John knew this. No force could overcome the bond they had forged, the courage they had displayed, or the potential they had unlocked. Humanity, guided by heart and ingenuity, had triumphed once again. And as the freighter sailed into the unknown, carrying three beings bound by trust, courage, and a shared mission, John Mercer realized that their journey had only just begun. The stars were theirs to explore, the galaxy theirs to navigate, and the future theirs to shape. He glanced at Lyra and the child, a firm resolve in his eyes. "We'll face it all," he said softly. "Together. And nothing, no one, will stop us." The child's eyes glowed faintly in response, a silent promise of power, growth, and hope.
Lyra placed a hand over John's, and for the first time he felt truly connected to something greater than himself.
The freighter glided through the cosmos, leaving behind danger and fear, carrying with it a story of survival, courage, and the undeniable power of humanity. For in the darkest reaches of space, amidst enemies, mystery, and uncertainty, John Mercer had proven that humans, clever, brave, and determined, could shine brightest of all. And somewhere out there in the infinite expanse of stars, the galaxy took notice.